It is Sunday night. We've got some heavier than expected FAAB bidding. We have some more prospect call-ups. We're gonna play a little drop or hold. It's that time of the year, and we get the Dodgers reinvigorating themselves into the top team in the National League. We're gonna talk about it all coming up next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Happy Sunday night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and listening to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We are sponsored by Rival Fantasy. We appreciate their sponsorship on the podcast here. It's Sunday night. I am Scott Jenstad, joined as always on Sundays by Jeff Erickson. If you guys could please rate or review the podcast, helps out a lot. All that jazz there too. But Jeff, it's I guess it's the middle of May. We got enough of the chunk of the season, about a quarter of the way in. Some of these stats are starting to matter. How are you doing?
Doing well, keeping busy as always. Got high school graduation to prepare for, things like that. Watching a lot of baseball.
How fast did that come in high school?
Oh my gosh.
I have a first grader, and I remember when yours were young, and I'm like, I can't believe it's high school. That's wild.
It is wild. She had her final prom last night. So yeah, crazy times indeed. They grow up awesome. Wickedly too fast, but it's okay. It's been fun. It's been a fun journey, and it's all good. But hey, a lot of baseball results, and like you said, some spirited bidding. I might have gotten involved in that. That's a tease. Radio.
Oh, nice. I like to hear that.
So
it's so funny. We were talking a couple weeks ago about, the Dodgers are 500. Are they've lost some guys. All of a sudden, I look up this afternoon. Dodgers have the best record in the National League. They passed Atlanta. They swept San Diego. They were 2 up on San Diego 5 days ago. Now are 7 up on San Diego. They've won 5 in a row. The Padres have lost 5 in a row. It's pretty amazing. I guess the cream rises to the top would be the phrase here. It's the Dodgers are looking really, really good again.
They are, and they were starting to play better too. Previous, like they had that great homestand the week before where they swept the Phillies, and then they swept someone else. They won 6 in a row. They go on the road and hang in there, and then they come back, host the Padres, and we're big brother to them. This week.
They really are.
And there's fewer opportunities for head-to-head conflict between the Padres and the Dodgers too. So the Padres get fewer shots at the Dodgers this year too, which hurts them a lot. I mean, the NL West, they've really started to take control, passed up the Diamondbacks. That was a fun story for a while, but the Diamondbacks have their own issues. Yeah. I kind of was, I was a little bit wrong on the Dodgers. I thought that their 500 start wasn't necessarily it, but I also didn't think that they were a 96 win team, which is what I think you had to bid on, for over under number wins. And I thought I was on the under on that. Maybe it was 96.5, but point being is they are kind of sneaking towards that target now.
They're playing 634 ball, a little bit ahead of the Braves, but the Padres with this 5 in a row, they're 3 games under 500. They're 7 games back of the Dodgers. They're a -10 in the run differential. They just have not delivered so far. It is so early, and if we saw I think 3 of the last 4 World Series, we've seen teams that look dead early. The Phillies last year, the Braves a couple years ago. So obviously nobody's burying anybody, but Padres got to get going pretty quick here.
Braves were 10 games out a year ago and won the division going away. They were way out 2 years ago, came back and won the World Series as a wild card, no less. So, yep. I mean, just a reminder that, and last year the NL championship was between the 5 and the 6 seed. So that's right. Crazy things can happen.
Yeah, we got a 6 seed and an 8 seed in the NBA Final Four right now. So it's there's a lot of that going around, but Texas Rangers, I wanted to ask you about 25-15, second best run differential in all of baseball, better than the Braves, better than the Dodgers. They only trail the Rays. They're now within 6 runs of the Rays. They've scored 254 runs. The Rays have 260. They've only get up 17 more runs than the Rays. They are right there numbers wise with Tampa in terms of run differential. A little bit behind them, but smoking everybody else. Do you have a feel for do you think this Rangers team is real? We're 40 games in the season, so like I said, a quarter of the way in. How real do you think the Rangers are?
I've been skeptical, but I mean, they've gotten it done, and DeGrom's been out for a good chunk of time. Seager's been out. They're going to get Seager back maybe as early as Tuesday. Their bullpen stinks on ice still. But it's kind of funny. Guy that was freely available in late March, Will Smith is their best reliever now. And pretty much is the closer. Leclerc is terrible. I think that they do need to kind of improve their relief work a lot. So that's something I'll be watching for a little bit to see if they do that. But they even have some guys in the farm system too. Evan Carter's tearing it up at Double-A. He's a guy that will see if they either promote or trade at some point in time, where they trade somebody else to make room for him. They do have some interesting parts. They've gotten improvements from some of the role players like Leody Taveras, Ezekiel Duran have provided a lot of mileage for this team. And the Astros are vulnerable. The Mariners are vulnerable. There's 4 competitive teams in the AL West, so that's the thing that kind of works for and against.
It feels like a shot, Jeff.
It was not. I promise it was not.
I'm looking at it right now. Do you know if the A's have won their 10th game of the season yet?
I would bet the under on that.
They're at 9.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It is.
I love today. They tied the game against the Rangers in the bottom of the 7th, made it 3-3, then give up 8 in the top of the 8th.
It's crazy how bad their bullpen has been.
Bad.
It has been so bad. And the thing is, they've got some hitting. Brent Rooker leads baseball in OPS.
Yep. Bonkers, right? It's crazy. They just have. I mean, the pitching staff is just the worst. It's so bad. It's incredible.
Yeah, it really is. But going back to the Rangers, it was their turn at the wheel to hit the Rays pitching. So
hit the A's pitching. You mean?
Did I say Rays? Yeah,
I think you said Rays. I'm like, nobody
Rays pitching has emulated the A's this past weekend, but we'll get to that.
Rays pitching. Let's just jump in it right now. Like, this is a team that is 31-11, as elite as possible could be. They've lost 2 absolute studs for the year now, with Jeffrey Springs and Drew Rasmussen. Like, that is, no matter how good you are and how deep you are, and the Rays are always really deep. I mean, that's just a massive loss.
It is, and they haven't had a single inning from Tyler Glass now.
Yeah.
Taj Bradley is still working on going from 6 to 5 and not doing very well at it apparently either. Although they might have their hand forced. They lost Garrett Clevenger for the season too. They haven't had a good left-handed reliever all year. Jalen Beeks had a couple good innings this weekend, so maybe that's some inspiration there. They've been without Pete Fairbanks. Supposedly Fairbanks will come back on Tuesday. So that will be some good just to get just even for depth purposes. Nothing against Jason Adam, but they got to have other reliable guys, especially when you're relying on the relievers more. They're going with bullpen games. I mean, they're really in a tough spot. Yanni Chirinos was available in some leagues this weekend, and even though he doesn't strike anybody out, I kind of still interested in him because he's going to be in that rotation for a while now. So I put some bids in on Yanni Chirinos. It may not have been the first one, but it's definitely someone I was thinking about. Josh Fleming has been banged up and not very good. For a team that's so good, they've got some clear flaws, and it kind of stood out, this weekend against the Yankees.
It did. They pulled it out today, but they lost two close ones to start that. I looked at Chirinos too, and then I saw more walks than strikeouts, and I just kind of moved on. But yeah, I mean, Rays pitching, he's gonna have some chance for some wins. But
did you see Jason Adams' reaction to the game ending out? He thought Judge got him.
Oh,
he hung his head, and then it was caught on the warning track. So
yeah,
I thought they were using last year's Yankees ball.
It was weird. I had that's a good one. I had the grid channel up, and I was watching that game. And I looked down, and the inning was over. It was a really fast and quick inning, but I didn't see the last one. But that's pretty funny.
Yep.
So week 8 in fantasy. Just real quick there. We're gonna play a little drop and hold here in a second. I want to ask you about some guys that are struggling. I picked guys that are in ranges where you had to draft them highly. But let's look at week 8 for a second. We have 8 teams with 7 games. The aforementioned Yankees, the Jays, the Orioles, Angels, Mets, Nationals, Dodgers, and Cardinals. So those are some big schedules. There's big offenses in that group too, especially when you got New York and Toronto and the Dodgers. 5 games. You've got Detroit and Pittsburgh. So just a heads up on there. If you have any guys playing an NFBC type league where you can switch guys off out for the weekend, Detroit and Pittsburgh look pretty rough for the first half of the week here.
Yeah, they do. Must be playing each other.
They do play each other.
Yeah, that's pretty normal.
That was good math by you right there.
Yeah, I know. I'm gifted there, but it's funny because 2 weeks ago we're like, oh, Pittsburgh keeps it going here. They've been rolling, and Detroit, man, they're drags. Detroit has showed a little bit of signs of life. They lost 2 or 3 to Seattle this weekend, but they were feisty and they won today. They gave Cleveland all sorts of problems earlier in the week. Torkelson had a good week. Now that I finally gave up on him in a place, I think. What else? And Riley Green's starting to play well too.
Yeah, he's starting to play well.
Yeah, they just don't have they still don't have the pitching, and they built on these young guns, and they all got hurt, and that's tough, but that's what happens with young guns.
It's funny you mentioned Seattle, and I looked up to see what that record was. They're 20-20. It's amazing that between the AL West and the AL East, there's one team under 500.
Yeah,
and the AL Central has one team over 500.
Yep. Geography still plays a role. It's not as big of a role as in the past, though. I mean, that's one of the stories here is like you have to play every team now, at least 3 games. So I kind of like that.
While it's fresh in my head here, someone's got a question in the chat. They can add JJ Bidet, Jake Fraley, Outman, Lamont Wade Jr., or Harrison Bader. Their drops are possibly Gunnar Henderson, Nolan Gorman, or Josh Naylor. Should they make a move, Jeff?
I mean, Naylor's hit homers in 3 straight days. Gorman won 2 games in a row.
All to give them the lead in the 8th inning later too. That was I think I saw that had never happened for one guy before.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't want to give up on Gunnar yet. I know it's teasing a subject that we're going to talk about later, but let's talk about him now. I don't want to give up on Gunnar.
So I had him in the drop or hold segment, and it has been. I ended up with him in the Vegas main event draft, and it has been horrendous.
It has.
And it's a weird profile right now too, because he is walking a freaking ton, like super patient, but striking out a lot too, but hitting the ball hard. He has a 45.5% hard hit rate. He's got a barrel rate of 10.5%, walking at 19.5%. It's a wild number. He's got 25 walks, has 40 strikeouts, hitting a $175, BABIP's 226. I can't fathom that BABIP lasts with with how hard he's hitting the ball, but this is someone that really showed well last year, was good in the minors, then pretty good in the majors when he came up. It's been ugly so far.
Yeah, and the fact that even with with Ramon Urias when he got hurt, I figured okay, maybe a Gunnar plays a little bit more. And every time I'm willing to give up on Gunnar, like he'll do something like he'll hit a home run against a lefty, or also for no less. I'm like, I just can't do it yet. But I mean, there is definitely that bias that because I drafted him, I'm going to value him a little bit more.
Yep.
And not only that, I made a point of drafting him. I went out of my way to draft him.
I did too. I think I took him in the 7th round. It was a little bit aggressive, and I cringe every time I look at the people that I passed in order to take him. But
don't do that to yourself.
I like to punish myself.
Dude, I mean you can. Oh, one of my my live main, like I said, it's the worst draft since the Rogue Drafter, worst live draft since the Rogue Drafter, and he was doing it semi on purpose. I have no such excuse. I wasn't trying to rig the stats, juke the stats for week 1 or anything.
I have 2 picks in my top 6 in the Vegas main that have combined for 1 home run.
Who are they?
Michael Harris and Tim Anderson.
I have Michael Harris on my Vegas main. Austin Riley's slumping there. Teoscar, really, my faith in him has not been justified.
He's just bad right now.
He's so bad.
The strikeout to walk, he's bad at baseball right now.
Yeah, and those are 3 of my. It's like my first 3 hitters.
Yeah,
I mean, that's weird. I'm not doing well.
Yeah, I keep looking at my offense. I'm like, why is my offense so bad? And I'm like, oh, Tim Anderson has a home run, and Michael Harris has 1. They both were injured too, so maybe they get hot here. But it's and Justin Macy's chimed in. No, it was not worse than your New York draft in 2019. Nobody can really top that draft. He had
everybody.
He had the all injured, all stash team, which did not work out.
I can't believe they're giving them to me. I'm sorry, Justin. We've all been there, dude. We've all been there.
And I'm there right now, so I fully feel you right now.
But again, at least it wasn't like a player evaluation. Yeah. I feel like for me, it's been player evaluation.
Me too.
It wasn't. I'd rather screw up the tactics than player evaluation. That I feel like I'm way worse because I'm just drafting bad players.
Yeah, so it's I did the same too. I'm hoping they turn it around. I mean, these are good players, and hopefully they turn it around. But it's been a rough start. But a couple other names I wanted to ask you for some drop and holding. We are at the time of the year where you've got to think about this stuff. We're a quarter of the way in. It's not like it's been 1 week. It's been 2 starts. I picked a bunch of guys who are kind of in the round 7 to 15 range. So guys like you really liked, you took them for a reason. We talked about Gunnar. I think both of us are a hold for right now. What does one do with Lance Lynn? Worst ERA among qualified starters in all of baseball at 7.51. The whip is 1.6. The walks are doubled from they were last year. The strikeouts are actually up a little bit. He's a 27% strikeout guy right now with a 13% swing strikeout. So he is missing bats, but the hard contact is brutal. 10% barrel rate. He's got the BABIP's 364, over 2 home runs per 9. I mentioned the walks. It has been really ugly, and it's just, I mean, the White Sox have been ugly in general, but it's been really ugly for Lance Lynn.
He hasn't. I mean, his first start was fine against Houston is the funny thing. It wasn't great. He gave up 4 walks in that one. He had a 10 strikeout game against the Twins on April 11th. And you're like, 10 Ks, no walks. All right. This is what the guy we got. He just needed some time to warm up. He's going, and then fart noise. I mean, he hasn't done better than 4 runs allowed in a single outing since then.
I was going to say, he has 2 starts all year. He's given up less than 4 runs, and one was 3 and one was 2. Like, he has not thrown a gem really all year.
Steve Moyer, the late great Steve Moyer, used to refer to the "oh no Chan Ho" problem. This is way back. Chan Ho Park was an ace at one point, and then he fell apart. And the problem was, this was like in labor where you couldn't bench a guy, right? So it was either you start him, he destroys you; you drop him, someone picks him up, and he does well. Yep. You're screwed either way, right? Lance Lynn falls squarely into the "oh no Chan Ho" territory. I haven't cut him. I have him in AL Tout Wars. It's just ridiculous. I have like just a load of injuries in that league, so I can't even get rid of him. Like, unless I just flat out cut him, I think there too. But I am within a hair's breadth of cutting him. I think. I mean, it's just soul crushing. He got crushed by the Royals, who are the Royals, and I know they have some interesting young players. You know, I'm down with Vinny P. He's a friend of me. But at the same time, I look at the rest, and like Salvador is obviously awesome. Bobby Witt has done good things. His triple slash isn't that good, but you know, he's providing fantasy stats.
He certainly has been fine fantasy wise, although real world wise has not been great. His OBP is 267 right now.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's really bad for a leadoff guy, and he hits leadoff every single day.
Yeah. And the bottom half of their lineup isn't very good. I think they had the Michael Massey game. They had, you know, they've had some other games where some guys have stepped up. You know, they're calling up prospects at least, so they're not being static, but they're a bad team, and Lynn got crushed by them. Yeah. That's the takeaway. It was 4 runs in the first inning. You're like, and then he hung around for a 5th inning and went from 4 to 7 just to add that little cherry on top.
Yeah, the velo's down. It's down half a mile an hour, or like 0.8 last year, then another 0.7 this year. So you know, doesn't like got through 98 anyway. Now he's down to 92. So it's rough. I think I'm a hold for 2 or 3 more starts, but he's on that. He's certainly on the. Do I want to use him this week? I may bench him in some spots, but I don't think I'm dropping quite yet. But I'm pretty darn close.
Right.
Couple questions in the chat. Which 2 of the 3 would you keep? Tanner, Bybee, Kyle Gibson, or Logan Allen? I would certainly keep Bybee and Allen of those 3.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
How would you rank Brian Bayo, Dane Dunning, James Paxton, and Brad Keller?
By height.
By height. By
so
Canadian.
Paxton's first.
By Canadian nationalism. I go Paxton, Bayo, Dunning, Keller. If I had
that's exactly the order I had them in too.
We're gonna talk about Paxton a little bit. I like Bayo too. I like both those guys. I'd have Paxton, Bayo on their own tier, and then Dunning on the next tier, and then Keller nowhere near my team.
Yeah, he belongs with Helen Keller in terms of that. So
next thing I want to ask you about is a tough call from a kind of strategy roster standpoint is Jordan Walker in St. Louis. You know,
I've got that problem.
He went flying up. I held him. I have him in the main event. I held him. I actually got him in my last main event. A pretty good price considering where he had gone. I was like, I'm going to grab this. The concern with Walker is he has 14 games in AAA. He's hitting $154. So it's not like he went down there and he's like, I'm showing you guys what I can do. I'm going to knock the door down. Granted, he's still hitting the ball pretty hard. His BABIP's 189. So there's some weird stuff in there, but you know, they're looking for results. They're looking for him to not just be good, but be really good in AAA. He's giving them zero reason to call him back up right now. And I just don't know. I mean, he needs to get hot for a couple of weeks probably to get called up. And we could be talking a while here before he's back in the majors.
Yeah. I've got him in the friends and family draft that we did, which was my FOMO draft. And now I have fear of not missing out. I really wish I had missed out. That was like a 7th round pick there, and it wasn't even that crazy. It was crazy, but not like insane like last year's like prospect inflation. I don't know. I feel like he's got prime post type sleeper potential, but you don't really know when that kicks in. Sometimes it's usually a full season almost. I believe in the long term.
If you had to guess, like if you had to pick a date, I know it's impossible to do. When do you think he's back up? I mean, obviously it depends so much on his performance, but you're like, I think he'll probably be back by mid-June. You're like, he might be in August.
The day after Oliver Marmol is fired, and they just swept the Red Sox, so that's not happening. I mean, right now, I mean, they don't have Walker or Tyler O'Neill. There's no place for Walker. One of the reasons they sent him down was because there was a roster logjam. They found his performance just meh. That he wasn't playing, so the instruction is send him down so he can play every day.
For sure.
And I don't see that really changing.
I mean, it probably takes an injury or two, right? I mean, we saw one with O'Neill, and that didn't do it. So it probably takes a couple of injuries and him getting hot.
Yep.
I mean, I think I'd be surprised. I think it would take multiple injuries for him to be up in the next month or so.
Yeah, I think so too. And him tearing it up. Friends and family has a similar roster constraints to the NFBC. We do have IL spots, but only a couple, and only like 3 or 4 bench spots. So every day you can't use your IL.
You can't use your IL spot on Walker because he's
no. And I have 2 IL guys. I have like 4 IL guys. I mean, I don't have the spot for him, so I'm close to cutting him there. I don't have him yet. I haven't cut him yet, but it's.
I was one player away from cutting him today. I know that Dylan Carlson hurt his ankle tonight.
Right.
We don't have a severity note on that yet. The game just ended, but I was if I had needed one more spot, he was my next spot. So I held him.
Carlson was a cut for me, actually, by the way, in a couple of places.
Carlson was I don't want on my team.
You're smarter than I am.
I don't think
we don't need to belabor that point.
I just don't think he's very good.
Adam chimes in, says, way I understand it, Walker has to be up on Tuesday to have enough service time to qualify for that draft pick rookie of the year incentive. I thought it was last Tuesday, to be honest. I kind of given up on that, but that's something to watch for. So that's worth waiting another week, to be honest. But I don't think the Cardinals are necessarily motivated by that, but maybe they are. Who knows?
I mean, I'm trying to think of who would be winning that right now in the National League. I guess James Outman probably is winning that. Corbin Carroll, Brett Beatty, Senga has not been good. Brandon Pfaadt's not been great. Miguel Vargas coming on.
Pfaadt was pretty good today, though.
Yeah, he was good today. I'm just trying to think of names that are like in that mix. I mean,
plenty of time.
Plenty of time. But he's got work to do to pass Outman and Carroll. But there's nobody that's like run away with that. Like
right.
Yoshida in the AL's got and is probably got a pretty big lead on Volpe in the AL. So there's a couple other big names.
75% of the season still remaining, though.
Yeah,
I would not think that anybody is.
No.
I wouldn't be betting favorites for rookie either. Let's put it that way.
I don't know if the Cardinals are motivated by that though. Like
I agree.
I think they want Walker to get right. I don't think they're calling him up hitting $154 no matter what.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. What do you think about his teammate Jack Flaherty?
It's a really good question because I had to think about it. It's a weird profile with Flaherty because he's striking guys out, but he's walking a bunch of guys. None of it's good. I held on to Flaherty. He has 2 starts this week, but I think it's Minnesota and obviously plays for St. Louis. I forget who the other start is. It's I'm looking right here. It's Milwaukee and the Dodgers. Like,
yeah,
I don't think I want to throw that, but you look and the strikeouts are up 22%, but the walk rate is insane. It's over 15%. He just scares the crap out of me right now. I think even if he pitches well, you're gonna get some strikeouts, but I think the ratios are just super dangerous right now.
Yeah, Wilson Contreras is back behind the plate tomorrow for him.
What the heck?
And Flaherty requested that too.
They said
after being the guy that threw him under the bus earlier.
For like 10 days, they took him out. And suddenly he knows how to. The whole thing is weird. The Cardinals are strange right now. Although you're right, they swept the Red Sox, but they
won 5 out of 6 this past week. But that put them winning 5 out of 6, and now they're 9 games under 500. Oof. Process that for a second there.
Yeah, that's ugly. I think Flaherty's right on the edge for me. I almost dropped him in a league. I had another league where I didn't need a pitcher. I didn't bid on him. He was available. I think I did, but he was like down my list. But
I would treat him as a common. I would treat him as if he's got good matchups.
Yeah,
fine. Stream him. I don't think he's a perma drop. I also don't think he's a perma hold.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to put it. And then it's funny, you look at the strikeouts, you're like, oh, he was striking guys out. His last 2 starts, he struck out 3 guys in each start, so maybe not. He gave up 10 to the Angels on that other side. It was really ugly. I'm not using him in a deep league. I'm holding him, put him on the bench in a 12-teamer. He's a cut for me for sure.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. We got a question in the forum here. Ray says, "Who would you prefer?" This is Cardinals related. That's why I went to this here. Who would you prefer for the rest of the season? Brendan Donovan on the Cardinals or Christopher Morel on the Cubs?
Christopher Morel for me, just on fire right now. Was
Yep.
killing it in AAA, slugging over 700 in AAA, hitting over 330. Had 11 home runs in 29 games. I looked at him a lot today, as you can tell, as we were doing FAAB bidding.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at last year, he only hit 235 with the Cubs, but like batting average is brutal last year. He hit 16 home runs, had 10 stolen bases. Like, we're talking fantasy here, and that was really helpful. He's hitting the crap out of the ball so far. I mean, it's only been four or five games, but Morel for me, I think Donovan's fine. I like the second, third, and outfield eligibility, but
right.
I don't want to say he's just a guy, but I feel like for fantasy wise, he's kind of one of those bench guy. Use him if you need to. He's got some eligibility that helps you there, so I like him on a roster. But give me Morel with the second outfield eligibility. I think he's got way more upside right now.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, even the Cardinals aren't committed to playing Donovan every day.
Yeah, they're mixing and matching a bunch.
Yeah, they are, and so that's another reason. And there's no guarantee if Morel gets them, but it gets the regular playing time. But they did call him up even before Nico Hoerner got hurt. Remember that happened? It got called up the day it happened, but it was before that. Later that day, Hoerner did get hurt. Hoerner went on the IL. I think even after Hoerner comes back, I still think Morel plays a lot. They're going to find places for him. He will be like Donovan, where he's not going to play one single place. He's going to play all over the place.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, they're playing Nick Madrigal right now a bunch, and you can just take away those at bats when Hoerner comes back. And who knows what happens with Mervis and Mancini. There's going to be spots there available. And I think that they did the, go down and prove you because you come back up. And he slammed the door down. And I think he proved to them. And I think he's going to get a ton of at bats.
I think so too.
Question in the chat for you, since you're the Reds fan, Jeff. Would you rather have Taylor Walls or Matt McClain? You mentioned earlier Matt McClain might be getting called up. Is he got called up, or the rumors are getting called up?
No, the Reds said he's coming up tomorrow.
Oh, nice. So,
article in the Cincinnati Enquirer from Charlie Goldsmith saying that he will be called. Either he has been called up or will be called up. I know that nuance actually matters. I think, the Reds plan to call him up on Monday, a source confirmed to the Enquirer. He was hitting 346 in AAA. So
12 homers and 10 steals in 37 games, coming off a year when he was 17-27. When you look at the surface stats, fantasy-wise, it's monstrous.
Yeah. So to answer the question, Walls, who hit a grand slam today and has been really good and is amazing defensively, the problem is I don't trust his playing time. I just don't. The second he slumps, I think Walls loses playing time. But then again, McClain's not done at the big league level. We see that with other hitters, they make the jump and the transition's harder than it used to be. I think there's some players that do it, but for the most part, we see guys struggle when they get Matt Mervis is like, yes, hello, it's hard.
Two for 17 or whatever he is so far. It's been rough, but Walls has looked good. He has 7 homers and 7 steals. He had one of each of those today. He is striking out less. He's striking out about 4% less, walking a little bit more. The hard contact's not really there, but you mentioned the defense. Like the Rays, you're going to have games where he doesn't play, but I like he's a lefty. At least he's on the right. He's actually a switch hitter, so he can go either way. But he doesn't have to worry about getting the bad side of a platoons. But you're right, the defense keeps him on the field. He's a really good defender. Watching him, it looks to me like he's taken another step. He's second, third, and short eligible, which is really nice. But yeah, I think you have to look at last year. He hit 172 last year. Like that, that is still there. That's still in the profile. Struck out a lot more. But if he's dropped the strikeouts, his hard hit rate's up, not great, but it's up 8%. I think that it's tough. I
will say one other thing. Yandy Diaz left today's game in the first inning with a groin issue. So that's something to watch.
The guy has been killing it too.
I mean, that was like that was an injury that launched 1,000 GIFs. But I think that's just one other place. And Brandon Lau is really on the struggle bus. So that's the other.
He's someone who, when he gets on the struggle bus, he can be on it for a long time.
He can hang out there for a while.
He's had a lot of slumps in his career. He gets really hot too, but there's some times he has some seasons where he would just kind of slump.
Yeah, the Rays will be slow to bench him though. That's the one thing, because they're financially invested in him. So that's one thing.
I feel better about Walls' playing time than I did. I have him in one league, and I did a couple weeks ago. I'd probably have to go McClain just because the fantasy upside is so big. But I'd actually like to have both of them on my team right now, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. One more drop or hold before we get fully into FAAB here. The guy who was interviewed during Sunday Night Baseball tonight, Tristan Casas on the Red Sox. A guy that we all really like. He's got that disciplined approach. He walks a ton. He's walking a ton. 17%. He's hit $188 with 5 home runs, 14 RBIs, and 18 runs and no steals right now. He's not going to give you any speed, so that's kind of off the table. Hitting the ball pretty well though, over 11% barrel rate. The BABIP is 212, which is weird because it was 208 last year for a guy who hits the ball pretty hard. What are you doing with Tristan Casas right now? Because he's playing a corner infield spot for you in fantasy. $188 with not much power and no speed has been really rough these first 6 or 7 weeks.
He is like the prototypical. The light's going to turn on at some point guy. I just don't know if it's this year or next year. Like, yeah, I really think with his approach, it is going to turn on at some point. I just can't trust him right now. I'm finding ways to try to get him out of my lineup.
Major League Baseball record holder for most innings to start a season is listening to the podcast right now. Brad Ziegler tuning in, talking to us on Twitter. That's pretty cool right there.
Yeah.
Brad, how are you? So I agree on Casas too. It's tough. It's just not fantasy wise. It's not there. I don't know how you play him right now, but you're right. It's going to click at some point. You just don't want. We talked about Gunnar Henderson. Like, you don't want to be the guy to drop him and then he helps out somewhere else, like you mentioned with Lance Lynn too. I don't know. It's tough. His OEP still over 300, but I'm nearing a drop for him at the moment.
Yeah, and the thing is, like in fantasy, we hate it when the guy is like a total walker unless you use OBP. You want him to knock some guys in, especially with this Red Sox lineup that has plenty of guys on base. Yeah, I don't know. I hear you. I'm getting very frustrated with him too, and I have some exposure to him. He's one of the Erickson whiffs this year,
and that batting average has to be there too because he's not a huge power guy. He's not a guy that's going to hit 35 home runs, but he's a guy that you're going to get some power from, and you're going to get a ton. You're hoping to get a really good batting average and a bunch of runs because there was talk of him leading off earlier in the year.
But he's not fast either.
He's not fast either. It's just a matter of him being on base so often. That
Dusty Baker's like saying, "See what I'm telling you about clogging the base pass?" Yes, like that.
There you go. But I mean, if he's on base that much, it should be, just by,
right.
You don't have to be fast to score on Rafael Devers home runs, which is nice. But let's jump into FAAB. We talked about a bunch of players, but I want to get fully FAAB. It was a pretty active week again. But first, a note from our sponsors at Rival Fantasy. A new Major League Baseball season means it's time for a new kind of daily fantasy baseball. Rival Fantasy is the fantasy platform reinventing the way daily and weekly games are played, and they brought new games to the ballpark this year that fantasy players won't find anywhere else. Rival Fantasy games include Fantasy Bingo, head-to-head challenges, and Fantasy Book, where users can select over-unders for 2 to 5 players. With games like this, daily fantasy has never been better. Right now, RotoWire listeners can get a $50 protected first play. That means if you win your first play, you keep your winnings, but if you lose your first entry, Rival Fantasy will fully refund you up to $50. Go to play.rivalfantasy.com/signup and use code RotoWireMLB at signup. Deposit a minimum of $25 to get your first entry on Rival protected up to $50. Now's the time to step at the plate and become a Rival today. Welcome to the arena. Jeff, let's start with starting pitchers because that was the big bid, although there were some big offensive bids too. Yuri Perez in Miami had looked pretty good in the first start. The results weren't quite there. He was pulled pretty quickly. He pitched 4 2/3. Did have some strikeouts, but gave up. I think he had 2 home runs, but 7 strikeouts in that stretch. Passed all the gift tests online. I think my time was pretty much Yuri Perez gifts for like 20 minutes. I think you won some Yuri Perez, so you must have gone pretty aggressive because he was very high up the dollar range in my leagues.
So the background too is worst team ever. I and one of them where I've consistently missed out on all the big name young starting pitchers consistently all season long. And so
how much before you go there, how much money did you have left where you got them?
So in one league, I only had like 550 or so going into bid.
That's still a pretty good chunk.
The other, I had over 700, I think, maybe even over 800. So
it's time to get someone big then.
Yes, exactly. So Vegas, Maine, I got him for 313 with a runner-up bid of 268.
All right, pretty good.
Erickson Untethered, the live draft I did, the online draft that I did, where Shu wasn't able to be there for the live draft or the ongoing draft, just chiming in here and there. Won 255 to 231. And then the third league, I didn't get him where he went for 379. So I didn't come close in that league, but I was in on him. I have concerns. I don't think he's going to go more than 6 innings at a time.
I was going to say, are your concerns pretty much innings, workload based?
Yeah. Well, workload based and, getting adjusted to the major leagues and Marlins based,
Yeah.
there's concerns, but
But I mean, the big concern is he threw 31 innings he threw 75 innings last year, and he's thrown 35 already this year.
yeah.
So when you're bidding, are you thinking like 80 to 100 more innings? Like what was your ballpark?
That's what I'm looking for is probably like 100 innings is what is my max on that. But yeah, like I have Kyle Wright to cut. So that's the thing is like he's like my number 3 or 4. I mean, I took Kyle Wright in the 11th round, and he's basically done for. My team stinks. Like I got to keep going back to that. The other one's okay. It's competitive.
Do you have a feeling like you guys are kind of slumping, or do you just think your team's bad? Do you see a pathway to getting into contention? I mean, it is a long season, and every year there's teams in 13, 40, 50 place who make runs later. Do you feel like you just kind of need to get going, or do you feel like it's going to be really tough to get going?
I feel like it's possible still.
Okay.
It's going to be, I mean, I'm up against it. I really need my hitters to hit, like the one, how I paid them. But
and at some point with someone like Perez, like even if there was 90 innings, 90 really good innings is super valuable right now. There are not a lot of pitchers to pick up. Every week we talk about there's 1 or 2, big, young studs that get called up, but like beyond that, it is awful out there in the pitching landscape. I mean,
you can't preemptively pick these guys up either. Like I can't go and get Gavin Williams right now speculatively.
Exactly.
I have to wait till he actually gets the call and actually plays.
Yeah.
So
and then everybody knows he's up, and everybody's bidding $200, $300 also.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you can hear the shouting in the background.
Are your kids yelling at each other?
No, it's good. Windows open, and I can hear the neighbors that apparently are big hockey fans.
I would say are they big Golden Knights fans?
They are. All 3 goals this second period, I've heard them shout. So who knew? I have a neighbor that's a big Golden Knights fan. I'm not sure which direction, but I can
either that or they're watching Succession and something fun happened.
Yeah, I'm up to like season 2, episode 4 on Succession. I plunked down for HBO Max, and we're catching up.
So good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's excellent program. They're very few shows that I'm caught up on. I'm actually caught up on that. I'm gonna go watch it here when we're done. But yeah, I was in on Perez, not as high as you were. I was more in the high 1s, low 2s, and I was outbid. But my problem is almost all my I should say almost all my teams, I really have bad offenses, and I'm struggling there. I have more pitching points and hitting points, and I just couldn't. I only probably get one more big chunk guy at some point here before we start going $20 and $30 bids, and I just couldn't have it be a pitcher. I just needed to be an offensive player, whether it's McLean, whether it's someone that gets dropped I want to add, whether it's a bunch of offensive players I want to pay $50 for. I had to save it for offense, so I couldn't go fully all in. Although I like it. I thought he looked really good. The stuff looked really good. He's obviously a really fun pitcher, so I have no problem with it. You got to spend it at some point, but I just couldn't do it with what my team needs.
Yeah, and and I think you want to get the value of like extra time in the year. If that's not what you need, then you don't bid big, obviously. But you do the keep them honest bid. You go 135 and hope that somebody else is the league is falling asleep at the switch. There's probably one main event league like that. There usually is,
and I always do it. I was like 170s, 180s right in there. So like it would have been a big chunk, but a bid where I would have been really fired up to get him. But I just couldn't spend more than that. Angela in the chat weighed in that Yankees Rays is a great series. That actually was a really good series.
Yeah,
someone who doesn't have a baseball team to root for right now, that was great baseball, and I always love great baseball. I love watching good players play, and that was a fun back and forth series. Yankees down 6-0 to Shane McClanahan, and I was like, oh well, so there goes that game. And coming back on that one is really impressive.
Oh yeah, and McClanahan actually gave up 4 runs in 4 innings today. Yeah. It was his worst start by far. It might be a precursor to what we're going to start to see, that Yankee Stadium is going to be a place where the ball flies out as it gets warmer there too. Because I think we're going to start to see another influx of offense. So that's another thing to watch for a little bit there.
Yeah. The overall Major League Baseball ERA is like 4.3, and the summer months that always goes up. There's going to be a ton of runs.
Would you adopt either the Yankees or the Rays?
No and no.
Okay.
Yankees is too easy. I think you think that
you
can't. I can't adopt the Dodgers. Like maybe if my daughter's 7, if she like suddenly wants to be a Dodger fan, maybe I would jump in there. But it would be hard for me to adopt a really popular team like that.
The thing about the Dodgers, though, I mean, they're smart.
They are.
I mean, they're well run. I mean,
they're fun. They're just fun.
Their players are fun. I used to hate them.
After the 88 World Series, I had a long hatred of the Dodgers.
Now that I can watch them too, by the way,
that helps.
That also helps.
Yeah. Not getting to watch Clayton Kershaw and listen to Vin Scully for like 5 years was truly absurd. Yeah.
So I mean that's kind of like stopped me from like that. I mean, because I do hate the Reds ownership. Almost they're not Fisher bad, but they're next level.
Yeah,
They're the whatever circle of hell is considered less bad. That's them.
Someone was asking or talking in the chat earlier. I would not dump Michael Harris, by the way. I'm very much holding on that.
I agree.
Too much power and speed upside in a great lineup. I think it'll work there at some point. What about other pitchers, Jeff? I'm actually going to jump on our list. I'm going to swap here too because the third guy on my list actually went for easily the second highest price. It was James Paxton in Boston. He had the one really good start. I went aggressive after Paxton. I went in the 80s and 90s, and it was outbid. I really thought that was going to be a bid that got him. And maybe even a little higher than people went, but he went for like 105 and 117 in my 2 leagues where he was available. I guess that one's
available for me.
Oh, I had 2 of my 3. He was 62% available, so I actually had 2 of my 3. So I was weirdly had spots for him there, but someone that who knows? I mean, he could get hurt at any point, as we all know. He's thrown 21 innings since 2019. But someone who has been really good in the past, looked really good in his first start with the Red Sox over the weekend, and I think people saw that. People are desperate for pitchers. If you didn't get Perez, it seemed like everybody was bumping up Paxton to try and grab him.
Yeah, I play in leagues with apparently smarter people that picked him up. Like one picked him up in April 30th. Another one picked him up in April 9th after he was dropped on April 2nd. Which is just pretty wild. So, he wasn't available, but yeah, Big Maple, he looked really good.
Yeah.
Now, obviously health is a big concern, durability, ability to go deep into games. All those things are in question, but yeah, high upside.
Fastball was 96.5.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really good. He looked great.
It was 92 in 2020 and 94 in 2021. So that's, It was really, really good there. Paul Sporer weighed in. He did the same on Paxton and got obliterated in his bid. So, yeah, I was in the same boat. Someone weighed in just just wait until you see where Ohtani signs to pick a new team. That's going to be the Dodgers. So I guess maybe I could just pick it that way too.
Yes,
I think Ohtani's staying here. The other prospect that got called up this week, it kind of went away a little bit when Perez made his pick, but Luis Ortiz in Pittsburgh was called up too.
Yeah,
made his first start earlier in this week, so it was a little bit kind of before FAAB went, but 5 innings against the Rockies, only 2 earned runs. They got 5 earned runs, had a couple of unearned runs in there. Only 1 strikeout, I think, kind of tempered everybody on that one. But he's a pretty big prospect. Had some good strikeout numbers in the minors. Where were you on Ortiz? I kind of dropped him down in the 30s range, and I kind of just missed him in my leagues.
Waterfall.
I love it. Nice.
He was like usually like my 3rd or 4th guy on my list. The K's concerned me a little bit. I think the Pirates are spiraling. I mean, they already have started the spiral, obviously.
Right.
9 out of the last 10 losses. I do think that, Ortiz has got some upside. I think the team context is going to hurt him. Today they won. They scored a ton of runs for Mitch Keller, which was nice. If you have Keller,
Mitch Keller's beasting
dude,
right now.
The
breakout is here and it's real. Yeah.
Yeah. It's real and spectacular. But I think that, Ortiz, he might struggle a little bit to get the run support, and I don't know how much they trust him to go deep into games. Also,
yeah, I was Perez, then Paxton, then Ortiz. Pretty with kind of a big teardrop in between each of them. Someone in the chat mentioned James Paxton. Would you rather have James Paxton or Tanner Bybee? It's Bybee for me.
I think it's Bybee for me, but I had to think about it.
He looked really good yesterday too. He looks
today.
Was it today?
Except I didn't get to watch it because I'm a cheap ass and don't have Peacock. But
oh, that's right. I felt like yesterday because they started at like 8 a.m. That's right.
Yeah, it was 8:35 in the morning our time. It was on Peacock, and it had no Mike Trout in the lineup there, or Rendon, I think. So there's some discounts all over the place on that one there.
Yeah, for sure. But I think Bobby is really good, and he's got enough innings that built up last year. I think he's going to throw plenty. I'm taking Bobby. I like how Paxton looked, but like the chances of him making a bunch of starts, I think are still very questionable.
Yeah. By the way, so I need to pick up a first baseman and scarf. I have CJ Crone, who's going to go on the IL.
Sounds like he's very likely going to the IL, according to manager Bud Black. What are your choices? Let's do it live
because my deadline's in 8 minutes. So
right.
Spencer Steer, what's going to happen to him now that McLean's up? Is he still going to play every day? Because he's actually been very good lately, quietly.
I would think so, right?
Yeah, actually, his average hasn't been very good, but nonetheless, he's had 3 homers. You know, he's got crooked numbers all over the place on his last 14. And when you're in a 15-team mixed league, that's something you look for.
Is Luke Raley available?
I don't believe so.
That's too bad. I think he gets 6 out of 7 righties this week.
Yeah,
or maybe it's 5. It might be 5 out of 6. Either way, he only faces 1 lefty. I think he's going to play a lot.
Nope, Raley is not available.
Wow. Scarf. Some tough bidding there. Who else is available? Brandon Belt's available?
Brandon Belt's always available, Scott.
He gets I think he gets 5 out of 6 righties this week too.
Yeah, he'll be on my list. I can't afford to be too picky. I mean, I need it as a rental.
Yeah. I like Belt as a streamer this week just because I looked earlier at him and I think he gets 5 out of 6. Oh, they play 7, so I think he gets 6 out of 7 righties this week.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm cutting Carlson, and I got to cut another cut. Well, as I'm going to be, I have my token bid for Perez. They're not as needy to get him as I am in other leagues. Unfortunately, no Morel available. Moral of the story is
Belt gets Brito, Herman, and Cole in the first half of the week, and then he gets Gibson, Grayson Rodriguez, and Dean Kramer the second half. I like the 6 out of 7. Paul Sporer in the chat mentioned someone else I was looking at. Jake Bowers. I think the Yankees have 6 out of 7. This
bad leadoff today.
Bad leadoff, and they're 4 at Toronto, then 3 at Cincinnati. Like that's really nice. Apologies to your Reds, but that's,
no apologies. I'm rooting against them right now.
Yeah, Luke Weaver, then
pick.
Hunter Green, and then I think Blake Lively is pitching on Sunday. I don't know who B Lively is, but I'm gonna go with Blake.
Ben Lively, who shut out the Mets in his last start. So put some respect on that name.
Sorry, I apologize to
that's more of a commentary on the Mets than anything else. So yeah, Bowers is available, and I like him. I better about my bid a little bit more.
Yeah, I like that one too. There's a lot of people on Twitter talking about that one, so there might be some Scarf people that bid a couple bucks more on him too. So I go Bowers and Belt for streams this week.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna throw in like Urshela and Steer.
Did Garrett Cooper get dropped?
And the Reds have a really good. I thought about dropping Cooper in some leagues actually, but then he came back today.
Yeah,
the Reds actually have a good schedule too, so that's the other reason to be up on Steer. Is because they get the Rockies.
That's right. They're in Coors, then they're home against the Yankees. That is pretty nice too.
Yeah,
you got some good options there.
Yeah, great options, the best options.
In terms of options, those aren't horrible. Compared to some of the middle infielders I've been bidding in the last couple of weeks. It was rough.
I at least have 5 guys, so I'll probably get one of them.
There you go. Any other pitchers that you looked at? Any Chase Silseth for you? He is available in 68%
on
of
my
main
list. I'll tell you the one that's going to shock you.
Please do.
League mate, fantasy football league mate, Patrick Corbin.
Oh, look at you! Did you
2-stepper?
2 stars week. It's the Mets and who?
I think it's the other one's a pretty good one. I want to say Tigers, maybe.
Let's see. I'm looking at the Nats here. They are Mets and Tigers. You are correct. Both at home. Corbin's been definitely better the last few starts here.
He's been cromulent.
He's been look at the last 5 starts: 2, 3, 3, and 2 earned runs. Yep. So he's actually been good.
Max of 6 Ks is the problem. But.
Yeah, the strikeouts have not been there, but he's pitched deep into games. The Mets are a weird team. They scored some runs in the second game today against the Washington, but not the first. They're obviously struggling compared to what we thought. I think that's throwable. He was in my waterfall.
Yeah, good.
He was down my waterfall, but he was in my waterfall. But
I got him in one league as my second pitcher added. After getting Perez, we got him too.
Yeah, did you look at any of the guys coming off either AAA or the IL? Carlos Carrasco, Jared Schuster is going to come up for the Braves. He was kind of a sexy name in drafts, but has been pretty bad in the minors so far.
I think again he might have been the last guy. Schuster might have been the last guy in my waterfall. I think we've used up our limit of waterfalls for the week.
Yeah, I think we hit the max there.
I just don't know how deep he goes. But I mean, the Braves sneakily have some problems right now. They've got 3 starters. 3, and I had Chris Clayton on the podcast.
Morton, Strider, Elder.
Yeah.
All right. God, you're right. That's and Freed's out a while.
Winans, who's not a kid. He's like 27. He's kind of the Atlanta version of JP France, but not as good. But a year younger. I think that, and they don't have a whole lot of like prospect capital to trade either. That's the other problem.
Yeah, I just I looked at Schuster in the minors and I kind of moved him down just because it's been really rough.
Dodd's been worse.
Yeah, it has been worse. Carrasco scared me. I just didn't like how he looked. I'd like to see him, throwing hard. Obviously, he has some spots last year he looked good, but his velo was down. It was rough. What about relievers? I think the obvious name here, and as we'll get to news and notes later, AJ Puck went on the IL. Not good for me. I have a team. My only team was kind of doing well and has since tanked. Has Lodolo and AJ Puck, so it was not a good Sunday here. But Dylan Floro likely takes over for, I would say, a majority of the Marlins saves. I think you're going to get some Tanner Scott in there too, based on matchups. But
Floro got it today, though.
Yeah, Floro got the save today. He's got a 22 or 20% K minus walk, so he's actually been really good. Lowered the walks. The strikeouts are up a little bit. Swinging strike rate's not good. It's down. So you're not a guy that's going to really pump balls by people. But 3.1 ERA, 1.1 WHIP, and he's got the job. I was in on some bids. I actually picked him up last week in a big, like, my 10th guy in my list, and
same.
That kind of worked out well because I didn't have to drop him today.
A little bit of serendipity because he was originally going to be my drop for Perez, I think, in one league, and then I had to scramble to change that. Like in the middle of the week, just to try to remember, I put in placeholder bids for Perez, and Flora was my chosen drop, and I had to hustle to change that.
Right.
Make sure in yogurt I was running behind and getting my bids in, so I had to kind of like make sure I got that one in time.
Yeah, I think he's going to be decent. Like you look at his pass, he's always just kind of good. I mean,
he's a solid guy.
Yeah, ERA's last year 2.6, 2.8, 3.0, 3.1. Like it's just really solid. I don't think he's going to be fantastic or elite or anything like that, but I think he'll have the job. The thing with Puck is we don't know. Like it was a dead arm, and then 2 hours later, it's left nerve irritation in his elbow. Like, as someone who's missed a ton of time to injury in their time, we talked about him being a starter, and then he just couldn't make it as a starter and ended up a reliever. I mean, he's been pretty good. He had a couple of hiccups, but he's been, was their guy, has been good, worked out really well. He got drafted, but I don't think it's any kind of sure thing he's back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Marlins had a sneaky bad weekend. They lost him. They lost Puck. They also lost Jesus Sanchez.
Yep.
And then most importantly, Jazz Chisholm with the turf toe, and going to get see a specialist on that. He's not on the IL yet. Chisholm isn't, but man, and it sounds like that's something he's been dealing with too.
Yeah, and then he ran into the wall and it kind of exacerbated it. But it just, you have to think with their franchise guy like that, last thing you want to do is like, just play through that for a while. It's freaking May 14th. Like you got to think they'll give him some time.
Yeah,
it's too bad because he has 7 home runs and 14 stolen bases. He's been really good.
Yeah, exactly. But going back there to Floro, so I definitely would have picked him up had I not had him already, or hadn't been focused on other priorities. But yeah, windfall of a guy. I think he gets the majority of saves there. You put on our outline the Yankees pen.
Yeah,
it is so confusing right now.
Wandy Peralta had 2 saves this weekend. Sorry, really go back. Someone asked about what the exact thing. The tweet I saw from the Marlins beat writer on Puck was left elbow nerve irritation. That is what I've seen. So someone was asking what exactly it was, but
I don't know if that's the ulnar neuritis thing that we heard of with Jeffrey Springs. That was the question, the comparison in the chat.
Right.
I mean, it could be. I wouldn't dismiss it, but I haven't seen that yet either.
Exactly. I was just going based off that. Floro, where he's available in mine, went for 67, I think, which was a 96. So like I was a little low. I don't think I needed saves there, but I have Puck in the league, so I would have liked to get him, but I wasn't paying $100 for him.
Well, and saves haven't come into the league that much this year.
They have not.
So I can understand the big bids. I mean, I think it's going to be frustrating, but yeah, I get it.
So back to New York Penn. Peralta got the 2 saves this weekend. The kind of matchup base. Clay Holmes is kind of being used as that guy where they need to get the chunk of the righties out in the middle lineup. They're kind of using him whenever. Michael King's kind of the multi-hitting guy, but got smoked by the Rays on, I think it was yesterday. It's kind of a mess here. Ian Hamilton has a couple saves. It doesn't really feel like we're getting a set guy at the moment.
We're not. It's wild that we have these competitive teams that don't have set guys.
Yeah.
Dodgers don't have a set guy. The Phillies don't have a set guy. The Yankees don't have a set guy. It's beguiling.
Yeah. Someone did mention Evan Phillips in the chat. He's obviously long drafted, and I'd love to have him. I think he'll be solid. But you're right. It's not a set guy there, and it's just if you do play in a shallow league, a 10-team, a 12-team league, and Phillips is there, I'd grab him right away.
Yeah, and it's a reminder that we play in, not everybody plays NFBC style leagues where the roster percentages are that tough. So yeah, 28% roster in ESPN. Go get him if he's available. He's a good pitcher too.
He is a really good pitcher. Big fantasy football player too. He was in the Scott Fish Bowl last year. Cool. Boston bullpen. Kenley Jansen has been a rough couple of outings here. It seems like it's funny. We talked so much about the pitch clock preseason. He seems like the one guy that's really, really affecting him. He's been getting some pitch clock time. It seems like he's rushed. He's walking more guys. He's striking out less guys. Do you think that his leash he's throwing the ball pretty hard? His fastball is faster than it's been in his entire career. He's at 96 right now. He doesn't throw as many fastballs. He uses mostly cutters, but the cutters is faster than it has been. So the velo's up. Do you have any concerns about Jansen? You think the leash is long enough that he's still fine? They got some good possible guys behind it.
The clock did not bother him until this weekend. The Cardinals did something different. They would
like stepping out or something.
They were like 1 foot out of the box until there's like 10 or 9 seconds on the pitch clock.
So they would go the max elaborate thing, right?
And so they called him for quick pitch even. Okay. Like, because like he was ready to go at 16 or something. Like he had changed everything to adapt, and they changed on him, getting in his head. On Wednesday, he threw 99 miles an hour.
That's
on Friday and
Saturday, Kenley. Wow.
Right. It was his 400th save, and it was against his old team.
Right. Still, though, to be able to ramp that up to 99.
And they were off on Monday, so it was like he was fully rested. He pitches Wednesday, blows it out, right? And then Friday, he was 92, 93. Saturday, he was 92, 93. But 93 was what he used to average at one point in time.
Yes. And I think that was as recently as a year or two ago. That's what his average was.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, is that, I some of this is weird. They should have had a ground ball double play on Saturday to end the game. And all that wouldn't have mattered. Right. He would have given up a run. It would have been sloppy, but they would have gotten out of it. So there are so many different things. And because it was, you don't get the error unless it's, an extra advance. You can't assume the double play.
Can't assume the double play. Yep.
But Kike Hernandez threw it into the ground. And maybe peak Keith Hernandez makes that pick, but Tristan Cassis does not.
Right.
I don't know. It's honestly, I wouldn't. I at first I was worried. Now I'm a little less worried. But yeah, I mean, go get Schreiber if you want to get the guy that backs someone up. Maybe Chris Martin. I don't know.
Both pretty good pitchers too. Like they're both guys that if they were to have the job would be pretty darn good at it, I would think.
Yeah, I think so too. I do think it's one of those where I'm not supremely concerned, but I was worried about him going into the season. So I don't know. It's just closers. Whenever everybody struggles at some point, and we start to get our cockles up and get worried about it there.
Yep. It's just they have such a quick little time they're in, a couple back to back, like everybody starts to freak out. What do you have any feel for the Philly bullpen? Jose Alvarado, who was closing a chunk of their games, went on the IL. They've got Sir Anthony Dominguez, who's been pitching well. They have Gregory Soto. Craig Kimbrell had a win and a save this week. It feels like even without Alvarado out, they're still just kind of a mess.
Yeah. I don't have a good feel at all. I think I didn't even have a good feel before Alvarado went on the IL because there were times they'd use him in the 7th, the 8th. I mean, that Dodgers series, he pitched the 8th and Kimbrell blew it in the 9th. And then they said he was going to be available, and then he went on the IL the next day. So, Alvarado was pitching so well too. I think Kimbrell's the main guy, but I don't think there's a main guy. I think this is kind of a feature with the Phillies. I think that Rob Thompson is. And
Gregory Soto got the save. Gregory Soto got the save yesterday or Friday, whenever it was.
Yep. They won 5 in a row, but then they got shut out today by Team USA's very own Kyle Freeland. So, I don't know. Harper was so locked in on Friday and Saturday, though. Yeah. It's fun to watch.
And then got ejected today.
Yeah, well, that was weird. That Bird guy.
I thought it was Bard at first. And I was like, that doesn't seem like Daniel Bard. And then I realized it was Bird, not Bard. So it was that was very strange. So yeah, it was funny there. The other guy that I kind of like is Miguel Castro in Arizona. Looking deeper, he got the save on Friday, and then today he pitched in the 9th in a tie game and got the win. It's very slowly starting to lean, I think, towards Miguel Castro as the majority of the guy in that pen. I know Arizona's been a mess. You still got Andrew Chafin there. Your friend Scott McGuff is kind of there too, but he's not really doing much at the end of games. But Castro's been been good. 3.2 ERA, 1.08 WHIP. He's most importantly, the walks have already been issued for him. He's lowered the walk rate so far this year down to under 8%. He hasn't been under 10% since 2016. If he can keep that walk rate down, I think he's a guy that could end up with the majority of the saves in Arizona. I kind of like him as a $1 or $2 ad right now.
Yeah, I do too. That's a spot I kind of missed today. I should have been more on him, but yeah, I think he's interesting.
We've chatted a bunch here, but I want to do hitters real quick here in FAAB. Christopher Morel, we talked about earlier, was the big bid. We both really like him. We think he's going to end up with a job. I went over $100 in the 2 leagues he was available for mine. I thought I had a pretty good chance at him, and I was just wrong. There's no other way to say it. He went for 208 and 177 in my leagues. I think that offense has been so hard to find the last 3 or 4 weeks, like anybody with real upside. And I think Morel, everybody jumped at him. He was 62% rostered in the main event before today, like 15% in the 12 teamers. I was pretty aggressive on him, I thought, and it turned out I was not that aggressive on him.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, Shu and I were I wanted to bid a little bit more than him, and I still wasn't going to be enough. I went 91 in one league, where we needed him a little bit more, and then 93 and 91, and did not get him in either league. And I think it was really frustrating. He went for 183, and then the other one that he was available in, he went for 159. So shame on me again. Always short, I feel like, on this one here. Yeah. It's kind of frustrating. And then I think, and he was, and then also I missed out on him on yogurt too, and that was annoying. That's actually where I wanted him the most.
It's funny because I think what we're seeing is every week there's like 2 or 3 guys who are big ticket guys, and only 2 of the teams can get those guys. So everybody else doesn't really spend that much money in those weeks, and then everybody's got money to get 1 or 2 of those big guys. And we're seeing that there's so little, like I haven't seen as many of the 60, 70, 80, $9 bids. It's all like the 200s. Then you got some lower guys, but I think everybody still has money. Did you do anything with Casey Schmidt in San Francisco? Had a really good debut, homered his first game.
Yeah.
Someone that's had a really good batting average in the minors. I looked back at him, I was kind of looking, it's only been a couple years, but he was a pretty good pedigree. He was a second-round pick in 2020. He was the 49th overall pick, then obviously didn't play in 2020 because there's no minor league COVID, but I hit 273 in single A last year, hit 342 in double A last year. The issue is Brandon Crawford came back. Schmidt was playing shortstop, but he played third base, I think, today. Were you guys in on Schmidt as someone that looks like he can hit a little bit, but playing time might be up in the air a little bit?
In on him and didn't get him.
Yeah.
The Jeff Erickson story.
Were you like $15 to $25 in on him, or did people were pretty aggressive on him in your league?
Let's see. He went for 77.
Oh, that is pretty high.
Yeah, we bid. What did we bid on him in there? This is the worst main event team ever. So we were already kind of hurting in funds. Oh, we were very small on there. I think we were very small in all of them.
He went for 33, 33, and 34 in my 3 leagues, which is
pretty consistent.
Wild. Yeah, I was going to say that's. I was a little under that. I just think the playing time's going to be an issue. The Giants like the platoon as it is. So I just, I need home runs and RBIs. I didn't really see. I don't know if he's going to do that in that park. He did have 21 home runs in the minors last year, so he's not like he's a power list guy. I think he's going to have some strikeout issues. He had some strikeout issues. He moved up leagues last year. He was in the low 20s and a little bit higher, but that was a small stint in AAA. I think he's going to have some strikeout issues, but I do like the bat. I think they're going to find a way to play him, but I just think they're going to find a way they're going to send him some games too. They just have so many guys they move around.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. He went 28, he went 64 and 77. So all over the map in my leagues.
Yeah, you guys were a little more aggressive on him.
Yep.
Any other hitters that you were like? I had after Morel, it's why I went higher Morel. There was just nobody there. Dominic Fletcher had a big week in Arizona. Corey Julks in Houston with Michael Brantley out for a while was interesting. Gavin Sheets was
Brantley had a setback. Yeah,
he's. I don't know if we're going to see Brantley this year.
I agree.
I wouldn't. I'd take the under whatever his at bat number is. Gavin Sheets is interesting. They play a lot of righties coming up. Obviously, Eloy Jimenez is out, but he's 75% roster in the main event, but at 12 teamers who's available. I had trouble finding bats that I wanted to get. It's hard to find offense that is remotely exciting right now, which is why Morel went so high.
I picked up Kyle Farmer in a couple of places.
All right,
as like
good schedule play for the
pivot. Yeah. He's playing a lot. And even with Kirilloff back up, they sent Miranda down.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of the key to this whole thing is Farmer's going to play a lot of third base. Like Kirilloff's not going to play third.
No. And they, that's interesting. And they sent Max Kepler one on the IL, so just another spot where there's.
So Larnach came back up.
Larnach came back up. That's right. It's that's not a bad one there either. He's got some eligibility that helps you out. Kevin Kiermaier is hitting pretty well in Toronto. He's about 45% roster in the main event. I like Toronto's schedule this week with the 4 in New York and the 3 in Baltimore, 7 home games. I had Larnach listed on here too. He got called back up. It just
big day today.
Yeah, he did. Finding him, I think everybody in Minnesota had multiple hits today. They went to work. They have 16 runs or something like that.
Yeah, they went to work all weekend on the Cubs. 11 yesterday. I dropped.
It was I saw it was the most runs in a 3-game series against the Cubs in a certain amount of years. It was like a historical weekend for Minnesota.
Yeah, I think they hit over 400 collectively as a team this weekend, which is.
Yeah, Wisniewski got smoked. I forget who got smoked today. It was
Stroman.
It was Stroman. That's right. Stroman gave it up.
Yeah.
That's right. He pitched like 2 1/3 or 2 2/3.
And he's been great this year.
He has been very good. Was there anybody else offensive-wise? I feel like that's kind of it. It was offense and 15 teamers was really, really tough.
Jake Berger was available in a couple. Just came off the IL today, and he's going to play a lot because, again, no Eloy. So Gavin Sheets and Berger are going to get a lot of playing time.
Berger has some strikeout issues, but man, that guy hits the ball hard. His hard contact numbers are crazy good.
Exactly.
Quick few news and notes before we jump out of here. You mentioned Yadi Diaz. He's actually going for an MRI on Monday. He had pain in his left groin. I thought it was just kind of a quick tweak when I first saw it, but it sounds like they're a little worried about the severity of this one.
Yeah, that and CJ Cron both like started off as pretty nominal, and now all of a sudden
back spasms, right?
Yeah, and the Rockies announced like, well, they didn't say, they hesitated to call it spasms, and then after the broadcast is over, the GM gets on there and says, yeah, he's probably going on the IL.
As someone who has had back spasms since my senior year in high school, I never make fun of everybody for that because it's awful pain.
Yeah, they're terrible.
We mentioned AJ Puck and Jazz Chisholm in Miami. We kind of hit on Nick Lodolo. I wanted to ask you about him. It hasn't been good since after like the first couple starts, but a minimum of 4 weeks. He has left calf tendinosis. I looked it up. It's not tendonitis, it's tendinosis. What does
I almost spell checked that for you, by the way, and like changed it in the outline. Then I Scott usually isn't that far off.
I actually did too. I looked at it. I'm like, is that a word? And I looked it up again. I'm like, it's tendinosis. So, but a minimum of 4 weeks, which, we hear pitcher minimum of 4 weeks. We're like, I assume that's 6 to 8. Like if I just guess, so you never know, but a month and a half, let's just call it 6. And if we're kind of splitting it there, do you hold Nick Lodolo right now?
No,
I start with 12 and also 15.
12 for sure. It's a cut.
I think so too.
I even think 15 because again, team context here. The Reds are just a bad team. I know that you're calling up McLean, and that might be good. The other thing, thing is, it's not just Lodolo was pitching poorly, but maybe it's because of the calf, but also the bullpen behind him is just hideous. Yeah. The defense behind him was really bad up the middle. Maybe McLean helps that. Maybe they get other reinforcements in, but
will McLean play shortstop right away?
That is a question that you are asking. That is a good one. I don't know the answer to it. I would assume so. If he doesn't play every day, something's really, really wrong.
Yeah. But he will. He'll be when he plays. He'll be at shortstop. You think?
And the thing is, I mean, they have to figure out who's their shortstop, who's their third baseman, who's their second baseman of the future. I mean, because they've collected 6 different really good shortstop prospects. So this is the start of them figuring that out. That's the way I look at that.
The thing with Lodolo that really bums me out is I feel like we got all the bad stuff, and he hasn't been good, but he's also been really unlucky. His BABIP's 435 right now.
Yeah,
his K to walk is 22%. He's 28% strikeout rate, 6% walk rate. I feel like we got all the bad stuff, and at some point we're gonna get some really, really good starts, and now we don't. It's just swinging strike rate's 13%. We were gonna get some gems out of this guy, and it was gonna be they're probably gonna have some home run issues. He plays in a really tough park. But I feel like we got all the bad, and now we get none of the good coming on the backside, which is just really frustrating.
I mean, I target him in keeper and especially dynasty leagues because especially if he's cheaply priced. But at the same time, especially because it's not an arm injury. I mean, calf injuries can linger; they can have setbacks and all that. But an arm injury is like more permanent. I feel like so. But for a redraft league, I mean, that spot's got unless you have IL spots and just a long more than just 1 or 2 IL spots at that. I think he's a cut.
Yeah, I'm looking at my stuff here. I held him in the main event. It's tough because I had him and Puck, and I couldn't. I think I'm going to end up dropping Puck, but I wanted to wait a week and kind of see what it looks like because obviously, you always hope that maybe it's short term. I think I'm going to have to end up dropping both of them, which is pretty crushing for a team. But I dropped him in yogurt. I had 8 pitchers if I held him, so I kind of had to do something. I have him. I have Rodon. I have Jacob deGrom, and I have Taj Bradley. And I didn't want to drop Bradley yet because I know he's having trouble doing the 5-man rotation, but he might come back this week. I wasn't ready to drop him yet with the injuries there. He's got to come up at some point, but I had to make a tough drop, and I made it Lodolo because I know he's out 6 weeks.
Yeah. I think that's the right call. I mean, You might end up cutting both eventually too.
I don't think it'll be. I don't think it'll be as long as eventually. I think it's gonna be pretty quick. I'm pretty concerned about Puck.
Yeah, I for sure.
It's
But yeah,
left elbow is just so bad. But
it is.
A couple of notes here before we jump out. You mentioned CJ Cron likely headed to the IL with his back spasms. You mentioned Mike Trout not playing this morning. It was actually due to a sore elbow, which normal people would be like, whatever. But with Mike Trout, I just never know what's going to happen there. But obviously, that's one that you want to check the lineup pretty quick.
The mitigating circumstance on that, though, is he was due for a day off on Sunday, supposedly, and got hit by a pitch on Saturday. So it's like, yeah, okay, we're gonna go that. But
they are at Baltimore tomorrow, so that's a nice an early game. You can just check and make sure that he's in the lineup. Sure. There is just a note. There is one day game tomorrow. The Mets Nationals. It's wraparound series. The aforementioned Patrick Corbin facing off against David Peterson. That's 1:05 Pacific. The rest of the games are kind of all normal, at least past 3:00.
Yeah. One other injury note: Joey Gallo left with something very minor. Supposed to play tomorrow. He's been leading off.
Yeah,
and
he hits some rockets. Like everything he hits is just smoked.
Yeah. Just crush. He hates batting leadoff, though, is the funny thing.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah. So we'll see if that, if they'll keep that. But I like him there. He's a patient hitter. It's kind of a good place.
Just so tough fantasy wise, though, because he's hitting 209. He has 16 runs. Like it's
batting leadoff will help that, though.
It will. And no speed, obviously, but strikeout rate's down a little bit. But man, he hit some rockets. His barrel rate's like 23% right now, which is just pretty crazy. Mason Miller in Oakland, who was one of these guys we were talking about only a few weeks ago, getting big bids, had the elbow issue, and according to the first opinion, it was fine. He'll be back, maybe not even miss a start. And now he's going for a second opinion his elbow on Tuesday. I just assume he's going to be out for an extended amount of time. It's just the A's right now. I assume that second opinion is not going to be good. Next second opinions are never good.
Rarely. Very rarely.
Very rarely. You mentioned Jesus Sanchez on the IL with a hammy strain. Too bad he's just kind of been getting going. Last guy I want to mention, Corey Seager is on his rehab assignment, finally coming back. He played the last 3 days. Has not played 9 innings yet. He's just kind of been easing him in. My thought on Seager was probably sit the first half of the week and play the second half of the week.
Yeah, I've got him in a league where we have to set the lineup, obviously, at the beginning of the week. And labor, I don't have like the midweek change.
That's tough.
So I have to make a decision on that.
I think I play him.
I think I play him too.
They're home against Colorado the second half of the week. Gotta like that. They're home against Atlanta the first half. So, if he misses Morton and Strider, you're not really losing too much sleep over those misses anyway. I think you got to play him.
Yeah. And this is the league where I had O'Neill, Cruz, and Seager. Lost them in 3 days within each other. So, yeah, eagerly awaiting him back. I've climbed all the way up to 14th or 13th or 12th, depending on which time of day that you check the live standings. But just get them out there.
It's so sweet when you get a guy like that bat, though. It's like you got this huge FAAB pickup suddenly re-entered your lineup.
I drafted and held Morel the whole time.
Oh, that's nice.
That was nice.
Suddenly your middle infield's looking up.
Yeah.
Cool. Carlos Rodon has begun physical activities. Do you think we see Carlos Rodon pitch before the All-Star break?
I have no idea. Zero idea, and it's not on my watch, so I haven't been following it.
I would say no. I would say no if it were me.
Yeah, I'm leaning no.
Yeah, but anybody else you want to talk about? I kind of feel like we hit kind of everything here. We hit everything on my list. We hit everything that's going on. Anything else on your mind you want to discuss before we jump out of here on this Mother's Day?
I just looked on that list. No, I think we're pretty good.
Beautiful. Cool. We want to thank everybody for listening, and obviously all the questions in the chat are great. Sorry we can't get to all of them. We try and get to some as we're going along here, but really appreciate all the chatter. It's been fun seeing people answer each other's questions on there, so it's always really fun. We really appreciate everybody listening. We want to thank Rival Fantasy for the sponsorship of the podcast. Also, really great there too. If you want to follow Jeff on Twitter, he is at Jeff_Erickson. I am at Scott Jenstad. I promise the Warriors tweets have gone way down over the last couple of days, so you don't have to worry about those anymore for a while. So I'll be talking a lot of baseball. Other than that, hope everybody has a really good week. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And we will be back at you next Sunday night talking a lot more baseball. Hope everybody has a really good week, a good fantasy week, and take care.